urban planning programs pursued in most industrialized countries in an attempt to achieve certain social and economic objectives, in particular to shape and improve the urban environment in which increasing proportions of the world's population spend their lives. The Acropolis of Athens, Greece.
The secret to the Parthenon's perfection begins with its special building material, marble. Its largest blocks are massive, weighing in at 10 tons each.
The sacred rock, the Acropolis of Athens, is thought to be the symbol of the ancient Greek culture. It is also considered to be one of the most significant ancient monuments in Europe. The Minoan Palace at Knossos is over 20,000 square meters and the largest of all Minoan palatial structures. It was built of ashlar blocks, had many floors, and was decorated with really beautiful frescoes, civic structures. An open space that served as a meeting ground for various activities of the citizens. The agora was located either in the middle of the city or near the harbor, which was surrounded by public buildings and by temples, stoa. A Greek architectural term that describes a covered walkway or colonnade that was usually designed for public use. Theatre. The Greek theatre was a large, open-air structure used for dramatic performance. Theatres often took advantage of hillsides and naturally sloping terrain, and, in general, utilized the panoramic landscape as the backdrop to the stage itself. Stadium. It was an important civic building in a Greek city, as it was the meeting place of the Bull Citizen Council of the city. Greek colonies. The establishment of colonies across the Mediterranean permitted the export of luxury goods such as fine Greek pottery, wine, oil, metalwork, and textiles, and the extraction of wealth from the land. Timber, metals, and agriculture, notably grain, dried fish, and leather. 7 wonders of the ancient world.
From his wife's place of origin. Although widespread in many of the ancient sources, this tale and the Gardens of Babylon are almost certainly a legend without any historical basis, passed down and distorted over time. Nevertheless, it does contain the truth that ornate royal gardens were used by ancient kings to display their wealth, ability to create lush beauty within arid environments, and for luxury. A prime feature of such gardens, for example, were trees possessing leaves which sheltered people of note from the scorching sun. There is no evidence of elaborate garden constructions of this kind at Babylon. However, it is speculated by historians such as Stephanie Daly that the hanging gardens did exist, but not in Babylon. According to the retelling of later Roman authors, the sculptor's inspiration for this great project was Homer, and specifically verses 528 to 530 in the Iliad. In these particular passages, he talks of an austere Zeus, the movement of whose head caused the whole of Mount Olympus to shake. Using techniques developed first during his work in Athens, Pheidias completed a spectacular 42-foot tall representation of Zeus sitting on a godly throne. In his right hand, the figure holds an icon of the goddess Nike, and in the left is grasped a scepter crowned by an eagle. So huge did the work sit in its temple that if the god were to stand, it would definitely destroy its housing. For almost 1,000 years following its construction, the statue amazed and awed visitors who held Zeus divine. However, when the Roman Empire instituted Christianity as its state religion in 391, was an intricately decorated, glittering rectangular structure surrounded by 127 beautiful 60-foot-high fluted columns in the Ionic style. To further emphasize its importance, the main platform was elevated slightly above ground level, reached by any potential suppliant by perfectly crafted marble steps. In addition to the splendor of its oriental construction, mixed with the Hellenic spirit in which it was so clearly infused, the so-called Artemisium is rightly famed for the myriad historical figures it is connected to. According to legend, King Croesus was about to be sacrificed by the soldiers of Cyrus the Great, but then the skies suddenly opened up and rain began to fall. Began work on a lavish tomb for the dynasty. When the Carian ruler did eventually perish in 353 BC, with the work unfinished, Artemisia ensured it was completed before her death 2 years later. Constructed using a skillful synergy of Hellenic, Persian and Egyptian architecture, this mausoleum, as it came to be known in reference to its patron, comprised a huge 440-foot circumference podium topped with Ionic columns and a pyramidal roof. Decorating the intricate work were a number of statues and reliefs. Lindos and his bronze casters constructed the giant 30-meter tall statue between 294 and 282 BC when it was finally completed. Unlike the Colossus's literary clone in Game of Thrones, the Rhodian real thing did not bestride the harbour entrance. Unfortunately, the metal and stone giant did not stand for long. In 226, it and the city in which it stood was racked by a massive earthquake, which broke Helios at the knee and sent him tumbling down, destroying many houses. Ptolemy III, ruler of Egypt at the time, offered to bankroll a restoration, but the Rhodians declined due to the ban of an oracle, which he could look across the sea at his homeland. It was the first and most famous of many cities to bear the king's name, Alexandria. To accomplish the task in appropriately grandiose fashion, the king appointed his talented court architect, Dinocrates of Rhodes, who eagerly got to the task. Plans for the city's layout were drawn up in the latest Hellenistic grid style developed by Hippodamus of Miletus. With those blueprints to work on, the construction of this so-called Queen of Cities began immediately. The following step pyramid, the most famous of which housed the sacred remains of 3rd dynasty pharaoh Djoser at Saqqara. Constructed by the pharaoh's vizier Imhotep, this structure was the very first to be constructed entirely out of stone. Sophisticated construction techniques and innovations continued to advance apace as the 3rd dynasty came to an end, with the notable advent of the pyramid complex, consisting of the magnificent tomb itself, adjacent mortuary temples, causeways, sphinxes, and other related buildings and tributes to the dead god king.